I, 31-year-old, and my husband, 30-year-old, recently adopted our son, 5-year-old, 7 months ago. My sister, 19-year-old, stays with us because of our parents' lack of support towards her transition, and because I live closest to her university out of all our siblings. My sister, Cora, fake name, is a trans woman and recently came out to us all 2 months ago and has been living with me since. My son, Jack, has been struggling to remember all our siblings and my husband's family members' names. So we've been showing him family videos and pictures of us from holidays and such when we were younger. And since Cora lives with us, Jack must have noticed the name we used to call Cora before she transitioned and learned to say it. 2 days ago, Cora came back for the weekend and Jack called her by her dead name. Cora was extremely upset and walked away from him. Jack followed after her to her room and was about to enter when she slammed the door on him and it caught his fingers. I was in my study doing my work when I heard him scream. I was up and out looking for him when I saw Cora holding his hands and trying to console him. He was bleeding, and his nails seemed light purple. I scooped him up and asked her how it happened, and she told me everything, and I accidentally said, "You really slammed the door on him because he called you. Insert old name? You couldn't have corrected him nicely. Insert old name?" As soon as I said it, I apologized and corrected myself, but it was too late because she got angry again and slammed the door behind her again. And I took Jack to the hospital. When my husband came back from work, Cora was still in her room, and I told my husband about what happened, and he says I was a jerk for doing that. I told him I didn't mean to, that I suddenly felt like I was talking to my sister's old self again after hearing that name after a while, and I accidentally said it out of habit. I was still getting used to it, and I admit there have been times I've accidentally dead-named her out of habit, but I've apologized immediately and corrected myself. But this time she seemed to hate that I didn't take her side, that I downplayed her feelings on the matter. Am I the idiot? Edit, she did not purposely slam the door on him. She thought he was far enough so she could close it in time. But I guess he must have run after her, and the accident happened. She did apologize and say she didn't mean for it to happen, and I also think her overreaction might be because of something else. I've been thinking of asking her about it, but she's been avoiding me. And I've been busy with work and taking care of Jack. Also, I feel like I have a better response to change, and I am usually a lot more sensitive towards things like this. But I sometimes wonder now if I dead-named her because I truly forgot, or because I was angry. I'm not really sure. All I know is that I was confused and worried about Jack, but also pissed, and it was just a lot. Edit 2. Jack is back to being his jolly self. He still gets excited when Cora comes out of her room, and he seems to have forgotten the incident altogether. He seems happier because I spend extra time with him during his shower time, telling him stories to distract him from the pain of cleaning his wound. It's been 2 days since the incident. I was extremely worried about my son, but when I saw how he got over it and kept going towards Cora's room despite everything, it made me focus on what I did to her and our relationship. Edit 3. I wanted to write this after reading some of the comments. I do not appreciate how you are degrading my trans sister. I understand that her actions caused harm to my son. You can talk about that, sure, but I don't want any form of transphobia here. I am a gay man, and I am human the same way my son is 5 and human, and my sister is trans and human. This situation is a lot more complicated than throw her out of the house. I understand that that behavior is dangerous to my son, and I understand that her actions may be that of an AH, but please don't resort to name-calling and hate towards her identity. I truly believe there is more to her side than I know now, and I clearly need to have a talk today with her. Knowing how she is, she must be feeling so guilty and awful about it. My parents disowned me too after I came out years ago. I had to move out early. I met my husband and his family, and I had their support. Jack may be traumatized by this, and I am going to make sure that that is the last time that happens. My son's safety is my biggest priority, but that doesn't mean my sister's, who I've practically raised growing up, doesn't matter either. She is obviously the most responsible between my son and herself, and she should have reacted better than that, which is what I am still angry about. Cora has helped us so much at home, taken care of Jack, helped him with word associations, cooked for us sometimes. There is obviously more to her than this incident for me to simply just throw her out. Yes, she's 19 and old enough to know better, but she has already apologized to Jack, especially with making sure he's doing okay these past 2 days. She just isn't talking to me, which is why I even wrote this post, because I think I just added to whatever pain she went through before she came home. I clearly have to set ground rules with her. And if she breaks that then, leaving my place is an option, but that is something that can only be decided after our talk. Final update. Before I fully update, I would like to say we have accidentally dead-named her a few times and she understood. And this was the first time she ever reacted badly. After she came back from uni, I asked her to come sit with me and that it was not negotiable. After she did, I told her that I understood how it can be tough transitioning and such. But what she did, even if it were an accident, is not the way to go about things. I asked her if there was anything I'm missing, if someone had said anything at school or something. And she broke after nudging her more. She told me that her jerk friends and her had gone to a frat party the previous night, and there she heard her drunk friends talking about tapping her when she got her new female parts, and that they could do it raw since he wouldn't be able to get pregnant. She'd be the perfect fleshlight. And that hurt her incredibly because she thought that they supported her and were people she could trust. She immediately took the bus back to my place, and that's when the whole thing happened. She said she was questioning everything because of that, whether being a woman in this life was worth it, but then she told me she loves being a woman and it feels so right, and that she does not know how to feel. She said she didn't mean to lash out on Jack. He just called her that name, and she had to get away before anyone saw her have a mental breakdown. And she apologized and said she never wanted that to happen. I told her she would have to go for therapy for that, and that we're not going to be slamming doors ever again. I told her I understood that she felt the way she did, but she could have been kinder to him. I told her I love her and that she can stay with us. Granted, she control herself around Jack, go to the gym with me to relieve some of that stress and cut off all those nonsense friends. We'll be looking at a few therapists that are covered under insurance and work on that. I also informed her that I can't let Jack be around that violence again, so if she ever does that again, she'll have to get a dorm room at her campus. And she understood. I apologized again for dead-naming her, and that the situation was just overwhelming. And she said she understood, it was overwhelming for her. We hugged, picked up Jack from school together, and went to the park for a walk. Jack and her played at the playground while I watched. And we just came back half an hour ago. It's been a lot, but thank you for all your advice, I really needed it. Now, for a few comments before the update, comment 1. I can understand she was upset, however, what she did could have resulted in your child having his fingertips amputated. I speak from experience that fingertips caught in the door can lead to severe damage needing to be seen by a specialist at Children's Hospital. My grandkids were playing, and my granddaughter closed the door on her brother, catching his finger and basically severing it. He was taken to the ER where they stitched him, and then a few days later, he was in a full arm cast for a full month to let the finger heal. He was lucky that it didn't result in him losing his fingertip. The very top bone in the finger was fractured as well. It was gnarly looking for a whole month. Not the idiot. Since your sister has rage issues, I would suggest she find a new place to live. Your son does not need to be subjected to her anger. Comment 2. Not the idiot. She's an adult. Slamming doors is what children do. But if she's going to act like a child, she should have the decency to not hurt other people in her tantrum. Dead-naming her is a very minor mistake in the grand scheme of things, while her outburst caused very real physical pain to a child. Especially 2 months after she came out, it's unreasonable to expect everyone, especially a 5-year-old, to remember your new name. And who gives a shoot if she didn't mean to hurt him? She still would have been slamming a door in the face of a 5-year-old. I guess there are 2 children in your house. Your sister needs therapy for multiple reasons. Now, for the update. Thanks for your comments from last time. So, a lot has happened since my last post. Cora and I had our talk, and things seemed to be getting better. She started therapy, and we were all adjusting to the new normal. But then, out of nowhere, my husband lost his job. The company he worked for went under, and we were left scrambling to figure out our finances. With the loss of income, tensions at home started to rise. Cora was trying to focus on her studies and therapy, but the stress in the house was getting to her. She was quieter than usual, and I could tell something was eating at her. I should have seen the signs, but I was too wrapped up in my own problems. One evening, I came home to find Cora in tears. She confessed that she had been secretly taking money from our emergency fund. She said it was to pay for some extra therapy sessions that weren't covered by insurance, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to it. I wanted to believe her, but trust is a hard thing to rebuild. I confronted her about it, and we had a huge argument. I told her that she had to pay back every penny, but she said she couldn't. She was already struggling with her part-time job and school. I felt betrayed, and in the heat of the moment, I made the decision to ask her to move out. It was a tough choice, but I thought it was the right one at the time. Cora packed her things and left. Jack was confused and kept asking where she was going. I tried to explain it to him, but how do you tell a 5-year-old about betrayal and financial issues? It broke my heart to see him so upset. After Cora left, things went from bad to worse. My husband was out job hunting every day, and I was trying to pick up extra work to make ends meet. We were both stressed and exhausted. It felt like our family was falling apart. Then, one day, I got a call from Cora's university. She hadn't been attending classes and was at risk of failing. I couldn't believe it. She had always been so dedicated to her studies. I went to her new place to talk to her, and that's when I found out the truth. Cora had been using the money to help a friend who was in an hurtful relationship. She had been paying for her friend's therapy and helping her find a safe place to live. I was floored. Here I was, thinking the worst of her, and she was out there helping someone in need. I felt ashamed of myself for not trusting her, for not digging deeper when I knew something was off. I apologized to her, and we talked for hours. She agreed to come back home, and we worked out a plan to manage our finances together. Things are still tough, but we're getting through it as a family. Jack is happy to have Cora back, and my husband finally found a new job. It's not what he used to do, but it's a start. We're all learning from our mistakes and trying to move forward. Thanks for reading. My ex-girlfriend went boating with guys and I overreacted. So when she moved back to town, I planned a surprise party with all her friends to show I'm not the jerk I once was and to win her back. Edit. Not naked in an inside bathtub, a jacuzzi-like bath outside with bikinis, sorry for the confusion. Hard to explain in a short title edit. I'm making edits below with questions and answers from the thread so new people can see. PS for people asking, I'm definitely over her. I wish her all the luck in the world. I respect her, but I have no feelings for her, and it was I who insisted on staying broken up. This is purely for some self-introspection. It's always good to learn and see where you did wrong. My ex and I are broken up. This happened years ago, and I want to know if I was the jerk. Long story short, my girlfriend was abroad with a couple of female friends, both single and taken. They had gotten a small boat and were out on a lake. They saw a bunch of guys, roughly 10, on another boat and invited them over. I'm not sure exactly, but I'm 99% sure she did the inviting, or at least was very happy about it. In her own words, she likes to meet people. They had a small bath ring behind the boat. Think jacuzzi that floats on a raft with seawater inside, and they all bathed in it. I woke up at around 11 p.m. to her sending me a picture of her day. Her in this boat ring bath with 10 other guys and one of her girlfriends. I asked who the guys were, and she explained. I didn't react well, hung up, and a fight ensued over text. We mutually broke up a week after having a need to think about our relationship week from both sides. Now, several years later, was I the jerk? Is this just normal, and am I being possessive? I can't see myself seeing a bunch of girls in bikinis and feeling comfortable just waving them over if I have a girlfriend. I feel like that's cheating. Edit. I want to paint her in the best light possible here. All of this I'm just guessing, but if I were to take her side, from her perspective, she didn't necessarily lead the invitation. It was her friend. Meeting new people should be okay in a relationship, and you don't ask for permission. She told the guys she has a boyfriend. Trust is important, and she communicated clearly about her day and didn't hide anything. Her having fun with other people shouldn't be a cause for concern in a relationship. Edit, I was 29 at the time, and she was 26, 27. Edit, to paint a clearer picture, it was her friend, sitting beside, and their friend couple, a guy and girl, steering the boat. So it was her friend, status unknown with 10 guys. I don't know which of the two did the inviting, but my ex was very outgoing and liked meeting people, so it was probably a joint decision if I were to guess. Edit, tub description. It was a ring full of water with a floor, a seating area around it, and walls to keep the water in, that floats on the lake sort of. Hard to explain, so I just used simple terms. It was a ring, and people could sit in it. Just imagine a jacuzzi on a raft, but without, I think, any hot water, only lake water taken in from outside. People sat in bikinis and swim pants. Final edit. Happy to see it seems to be about 50-50. Yay, nay. Always glad to hear some feedback. Since I've tried my best to paint her in a good light, I'm going to be a bit selfish and paint why I felt that way with her. She had cheated before on an ex, so not on me, 5+ years ago. And she was never really outspoken about her liking me. The only time I heard she liked me was through her friend saying, "She must like you. She hasn't done that to a lot of guys." I felt a bit unloved in the relationship, so it probably didn't take much to push me over the edge. Doesn't make me right, just food for thought. Edit kind of this? It's hard to say exactly since I just saw a picture. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You may have overreacted. It wasn't like you found these photos and she was keeping it a secret. She openly shared them with you. I have a photo with me on a bed with 8 girls. It was a party. It didn't mean anything. The real question is, are you now regretting your decision? It doesn't matter what we think. Do you feel like you were the jerk? Comment 2. I will go against the crowd here with no jerks here. She was with her girlfriends. Some of them were single, and she herself didn't cheat. She shared the details with you in an open and honest way. It is indeed just a different level of communication needs. I also think the title is misleading and clickbaity, as there were other women there too. Now, for the update, thanks for sticking around for the update. So, the other day, something happened that really made me see things differently. Remember how I told you about my ex and the whole boat incident years ago? Well, turns out, life has a funny way of throwing you curveballs. I bumped into one of her friends, the one who was with her on that boat. We got talking, and she spilled some beans I never knew about. Apparently, my ex was the one who was hesitant about inviting those guys over. It was her friend, the single one, who pushed for it. My ex even mentioned me in the conversation, saying she wasn't sure if it was a good idea because of me. But peer pressure is a thing, right? Now, this friend of hers, she's always been the hectic card in their group. I learned that back then she was going through a rough patch, just got out of a relationship, and wanted to let loose. My ex, being the good friend she is, didn't want to leave her hanging. So, she went along with it, trying to be supportive. It's funny how back then I was so sure my ex was at fault. But hearing this, it's like I'm seeing her in a new light. I mean, she did have a history with her ex, which made me insecure. But maybe I was too quick to judge. And get this, the friend also mentioned that after the whole breakup fiasco, my ex was a mess. She really did care about me, more than I thought. Her friend said she never saw her that upset over a guy before. That hit me hard. I guess I never saw how much I meant to her because I was too caught up in my own feelings. But here's the kicker. The friend told me my ex is moving back to town. She's been away for a while and now she's coming back. I haven't seen her since we broke up, and honestly, I don't know how I feel about it. It's weird, but all this made me think about how quick we are to judge, to make decisions based on half-truths. I was so sure I was in the right, that I was the one who got wronged. But maybe it wasn't so black and white. Anyway, thanks for reading. It's been quite a ride. My daughter accuses me of cheating and shuns my new family. So I skip her wedding and take them on the vacation of a lifetime. While she faces the consequences of a fake marriage, please forgive me if I'm not doing this properly. I do not understand this website. My son is trying to help me, and he said that I need to hear unbiased opinions. He said to post here. My wife was in a car accident about 5 years ago. My children were in the car with her. My son lost his right arm, and my daughter was banged up. My wife suffered a traumatic brain injury that left her in a persistent vegetative state. She was basically brain dead, and only her brainstem was keeping her alive. After talking to doctors and her family, I was ready to let her go. My daughter couldn't accept that. I took her for counseling. We went separately and together with her brother. She could not let go. Thanks to my employer, I have excellent insurance. I also earn enough to not really have any monetary concerns. I started attending a grief support group. I met a woman there who had lost her husband. We connected. Maybe a year after we met, we started a relationship. We weren't as careful as we should have been, and she got pregnant. We discussed our options, and we decided that we had a future together. When she was 7 months pregnant, she was put on bed rest. I moved her into a room in my house. My daughter did not handle it well. She said I was having an affair. She has never treated my fiancé with basic respect. I know I'm moving on very fast. But my wife and I had a strained relationship for the last few years. She had substance abuse problems, and I spent 6 years trying to hide that from the kids. I still loved her and wanted her to get better. She was high when she crashed her car. I was and am very angry about that. My wife's body got pneumonia and died a year ago. That's when I got engaged. My daughter got engaged when she was 18. I wasn't thrilled, but I tried my best to support her. I got my invitation, and it didn't include my fiancé or even a +1. I called her to ask about it, and she said that I was a guest, and to be grateful, I was even invited by myself, considering I was having an affair. I said that I wanted to bring my fiancé. She adamantly refused. I RSVP'd that I would not be attending. I still paid for the wedding. I took my fiancé and son to Orlando for that weekend. My daughter has been telling everyone that I chose to go to Disney World instead of her wedding. She is saying that I'm an absolute jerk for putting my replacement family ahead of her. I just want to move forward. My son said to include that I was just a guest at the wedding and not a part of it at all. Like I wasn't going to walk her down the aisle or anything. I think my daughter is being incredibly unfair to my fiancé and her half-brother. None of this is their fault. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. I read your daughter's post too. You didn't just move some woman in. Your timeline is unclear, but from her comments, you met your girlfriend in a grief support group 2 years after your wife's accident. You also still paid for her wedding. I think you should have included that even your wife's family agrees that your daughter is being unfair and should be treating you, your girlfriend, and son better. Your daughter is redirecting her grief at you, and it's sad for you both. Hope you all get the help you need. Comment 2. Not the idiot. You didn't cheat. You couldn't get a divorce from a body. It wasn't fair that you wouldn't live your life. Especially when your wife was high and caused the accident, you had a right to live. Your daughter's audacity amazes me. She has the boldness of taking your money to her wedding and doesn't even give you a +1. You are a saint for even paying after that. You have too much patience with her behavior. She's an adult married woman now, time to be treated as such. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking with me here. A lot has happened since I last posted. So my daughter's wedding came and went. I thought that was the end of it, but no, life had more in store. My daughter's marriage, it turns out, was a sham from the start. Her husband, the guy I never really trusted, had been cheating on her even before they said, "I do." The fallout was messy, with accusations flying and my daughter's heart shattered into a million pieces. She came to me, tears and all, asking for help. What could I do? I took her in, of course. Meanwhile, my fiancé gave birth to a beautiful baby boy. We were over the moon, but the joy was short-lived. My son, the one who lost his arm, started acting out. He got into fights at school, his grades slipped, and then came the shocker. He was using drugs. The same demon that had gripped his mother. I was furious, heartbroken, and scared all at once. We got him into rehab, but it's a long road ahead. And then, as if I didn't have enough on my plate, my late wife's sister came knocking. She had been quiet for years, but now she claimed that my wife had left her something valuable, a family heirloom, and she wanted it back. I had no idea what she was talking about, but she was insistent, threatening legal action. It turned out to be a piece of jewelry that my wife had indeed promised to her sister, but in her substance-fueled haze, she had pawned it years ago. I had to pay out of pocket to settle that score. But here's where things get really twisted. My fiancé, the woman I thought was my rock, had been in touch with my daughter's ex behind my back. I found out when I overheard a phone call. She was comforting him, telling him things would get better. I couldn't believe it. The betrayal cut deep. When I confronted her, she said she was just trying to help, that she felt sorry for him. But I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to it. I was trying to keep my family together, to build something new, but it felt like the universe was against me. My daughter, now divorced, was living with us, and the tension between her and my fiancé was evident. My son was in and out of rehab, and I was juggling work, a newborn, and a household on the brink of collapse. And then, the final straw. My daughter found out about my fiancé's conversations with her ex. She was livid, said she couldn't trust anyone, that we were all against her. She packed her bags and left, saying she needed to start fresh somewhere else. I haven't heard from her since. Through all this, I've been trying to keep my head above water, to be a good father, a good partner. But it's hard not to feel like I'm being played, like I'm the fool in my own life's drama. I keep thinking I'm making the right choices, but maybe I'm just as blind as I was when my wife was spiraling out of control. I'm doing my best here, but it feels like every time I patch one hole, another leak springs. I'm just hoping for a break, for some peace. But for now, I'm just trying to get through each day. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day!